All right, so we're going to go through the most in-depth way of adding our reveal bot automated rules. Just want to make sure you're familiar. It's a very simple platform to get behind. It's almost stupid in terms of complexity, how easy it is to get familiar with. But first, we'll just get right to it. Feel free to explore all of these different areas. If you're e-commerce, you're a lead gen, there's a lot maybe in this video we won't cover that makes sense for your business. But the whole point is the integration that you're going to pass along these notifications to your ads manager or to your small agency or to yourself, just to keep this all relatively streamlined. For instance, stop loss is huge. The power of threes is amazing. A huge reveal bot developed optimization opportunity. All of these are really great. We're going to walk through the ones that we use the most at Adverlytx when we're pushing this out through a program like Zapier into Asana, so that the first thing in the morning, some of our strategists see this. So a great one, profit marching. This is awesome because we do, as you know from this course, really push a lot of CBO forward. Big fan of CBO here, and let's kind of walk through this. So as you can see there, the strategy increases the daily budget if it was profitable times a certain amount from the budget before. So if we could see on our example client here, in the last 28 days, we were achieving well above our benchmark. So sometimes, you put CBO in the name, sometimes you don't. In this case, we're going to look at bottom funnel versus middle funnel or bottom funnel. A lot of the times, those are going to be the ones that are really pushing our revenue if you've not adapted the one or two campaign model. If you're already working and you have a lot of campaigns, feel free to just utilize whatever rule is going to activate those campaigns. But because we're over a 3 and we almost hit 50%, what we want to do is we want to see yesterday, did our ROAS go above 3.25, which is our goal? And in the last 7 days, has it been above 3 consistently? So this one will actually have run twice a day. That way we have the opportunity basically in the morning and at night to be able to run this. And we will pair this with midnight reset. So if we are running into some type of runway issues, maybe we have some situations with budgeting. We don't want this to go beyond spending in one day, right? So there we are. Maybe accidentally created one or two more rules. There's a little bit of a lag in reveal bot right now. I'm going to save all of these as drafts, and then we can move forward, and we can just kind of rename them. And the reason I'm going to put meta here is just because there's a good chance, that we might put a client name there if we're working across more than one client. If we are going to send this over, which we are, as an Asana task, we do want to reference whether this is Meta or Google in case we're running that across the same ads manager. So, someone clearly a lot of people are on Google and Facebook at the same time. We want to make sure that they understand right away where the rule is coming from. So is that my absolute favorite rule? I think it's the easiest way. First thing in the morning, every 6 hours, it's going to run 4 times in a day. At midnight, it'll be overridden by the reset. But what's nice is first thing, 6 a.m., if we're looking at the previous day, killing it, we'll wake up in the morning to a better budget. So we're way more likely to utilize performance during that day. So we want to be able to get in front of budgets without checking in 9, 10 a.m. and going, oh shoot, this performed well yesterday. Let's get in front of it. So now we're going to set up basically a rule for ad sets for the top 30 ad sets, and we'll scale them 20%. So this is a little bit different how we'll set this up. One is basically checking against the last 7 days, and it's checking against yesterday's performance specifically to be 20% above our benchmark. So that last one was looking at one that's clearly performed regularly, but the performance is increasing. So here's an opportunity to identify at an ad set level quickly when we're looking at something in the last 3 days. If this is for a quick scale, you don't have to use all these at once. You can, but we're looking for the top 30% in the account. So RevealBot is able to do that automatically for us. Let's get the top 30% so we know which budgets we're scaling up and which budgets we're scaling down. So we're adding that failsafe of the last 3 days that we have at least one purchase because of the instance that sometimes Meta will run away with wanting to look at historic performance, but if it has a really high, sometimes we see some ad sets that are crushing it at like a 7 or 8 return, but it's because of one big sale. So we're putting that fail safe in just so we can see and make sure that it was recently that they were getting action. So those might look redundant in that last one, but that's why we put in that fail safe. So now we're going to do a midnight reset in Meta. I like capitalization. I don't know why they don't do that. I'm kind of a stickler for it, but now we're looking for anything in the last 3 days that is underneath our return goal. And we're not eliminating it. We're just trimming some of those budgets because we don't want anything to overspend if it's not hitting our return. So for in this case, anything in the ads set that has more than one ad or more than 0, so we know it's live. And now we're including anything with a purchase that is less than or equal to 3. So I know we're at 3.46. Now we're going to just make sure this is a little even at 3. So anything that did see good performance, maybe we raised budget on it the night before, that's going to reset if we don't see that average stay over 3. I don't usually run this on weekends. I will say, just because sometimes weekends are when people are a little bit more relaxed. Sometimes that's when people are buying and scrolling and actually feel like they can, except during the week. As you can see here, the set to value is at 100. That's the baseline for testing. I don't do anything less than that, or I just won't learn anything. So basically saying, run this, send me notifications, obviously, as I'm going to forward those along. I'm going to save this as a draft. So we have 3 great rules in place right now. So the next rules, it's a little bit more complicated, at least it sounds like it, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at ad sets against the entire account performance. So all this means is, in order for this to fire, the account has to be at or near its benchmark. So it's going to be a 15%, and this is for definitely brands that are ready to scale. What does that mean? It just means that you have budget, you've been beating your average, so now we just want to make sure that we're trying to scale the brand. So we're going to change this metric level to account. So when we do that, we can see we got 50 ad sets that match, the account being over 0, obviously. But in the last 7 days, our benchmark is basically 3.5. Call it 3.4 here. So we're going to say, in order for this to fire, we're going to change it. We're going to make sure that's on and. The account level has to be over 3.4, which is our new benchmark. And now the individual ad sets in the last 7 days have to be over 3, which is our minimum benchmark. So you can see in here, this is set at ad set. So if the account is in the position to scale, it means the account in itself is beating our benchmarks by 40 points here, then anything that's an ad set in the account needs to go up 15% by budget. So we can also protect to make sure that this only happens after 1 p.m. on the day we're looking for it to fire, and not on weekends, because sometimes people don't work on weekends and we don't want to do anything where someone is not able to observe it. So anytime past 1 p.m., if our budgets are crushing it, including that day, we're going to run this every 3 hours. So it won't run before 1 o'clock, but anytime forward, we just want to make sure we're increasing our budget. And if it doesn't go as intended, we should be saved by our midnight reset. So this is all very awesome automation where you're working in tandem with your ads manager, but you're also able to kind of show them what's going on in the back end to help save them time so they can focus on the big things like creative optimization. I do encourage everybody to look at templates that make sense to your business. Again, we're just showing you templates that we use at Adverlytx, but there are lots of ones that could be good for your business. So this is basically looking at sometimes, especially if you're a lead gen, and in this case you would change this to CPA, but right now we're looking at latent ad sets. So one thing we'll do is actually come in and change this to paused. So we're specifically looking at performance, e-commerce based, where we may have gotten better performance after we considered pausing an ad. So this should be protected by our convertilize rolling benchmark, but in case this rule is set, so we're not losing out on creative and producing more creative when we already have stuff that we've underutilized in the past. So I'm looking at the top 30% in terms of ROAS if it's paused. So all that means is in the last 30 days, if we did see latent attribution, we can get a notification. And all we're looking is to either start this again, and we'll get a notification to your ads manager to go look at this starting out again because it's suddenly performing better than we thought, or we can just set it to notify us. Whichever we like here. So you can play with this any way you want. If you are budget strapped, obviously you don't want to just start another ad set, but in this case we are focused on companies that are looking to scale. So this is quite simple. We're just going to look for that to re-engage ad sets that are top 30% that just have latent attribution. So another thing I like to organize, automated rules, just keep it clean in here in case we're dealing with automated rules and just notifications. So that's the reason we like to classify this. So this next rule is definitely an alert. It's specifically for e-commerce. It could be used for lead gen, but we're looking at a cost per action, or in this case cost per sale greater than 5 times an add to cart average. So all this means is there's some ad set weighing down campaign performance, or the campaign needs to be restructured. So we're changing filter to campaigns, things that are active. If you're using lead gen, in this case add to cart would likely just end up being initiating a form fill, which is a rule you'll definitely have to make or pull out of whatever platform you're using. Google Analytics 4 is a good place. The only issue is it's a relatively new integration for GA4 in Meta, so you got to make sure that's set up right. But in this case, again, we'll look at ecom. So we're looking at a cost per purchase in the last 14 days, and we're going to change this to ranking, or excuse me, to metric. So this just means we're comparing two things. So we're looking at cost per purchase to be 5 times that of a website add to cart cost. So here's cost per website add to cart being at 1. So we only need this in the last 14 days to be 1 times itself. So basically it's, is this 5 times the average cost per add to cart? And all this is going to be a rule that we run about every 12 hours, just so we're not missing out on anything. I'm always changing it to Central Time. I think I accidentally signed up for this demo account in LA time here. So that's simple as that. We're going to save this as a draft. Eventually we'll set that live, but this is just one of those things. We're creating an opportunity for your manager to go in and see what might be weighing that down. So the next rule we're going to create, it's definitely for us to recognize which creative has fatigue, because really this all starts with click-through rate. And while some brands don't want to hear that, click-through rate is really the indicative behavior, especially link clicks. Now we're going to focus on link clicks because click-through rate could be just someone engaging with an ad. But in this case, we want to focus on something that's valuable enough to stop someone's scroll session on Meta and to actually get them to leave their session to browse a brand's page. So we are going to look at the last 28 days. not quite a full month, because we don't want to run this to run like every month on like the first or at the end of the month. We want to have rolling 28 days. And what we're going to look at is if it's 0.8. So we're just basically saying, is it 8% less or 80% in behavior less than the account average in the last 28 days? Okay, yeah, that should say 28. So we can see the overall account click-through rate is any ad set below that. And this we're going to run twice a day. It's really important because if this runs multiple times, we're going to look and say, is there a specific copy or creative piece that is weighing this down? So you can also, add in there, but we're going to have this notify once per day, but we're going to have it run multiple times a day. Because I like to be pretty clean, some of these are automated rules, and some of these are alerts. I'm going to come in, I'm going to create alert rules. I do like to organize that in case we need to go in and we need to make some type of change. We don't want everything living in the same one area, or we're just going to kind of get a little bit confused here. It's easier to just navigate. We can always search by a rule, but these just help. You don't have to do it, but they certainly help me. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to duplicate this rule. And now we're going to look for ads that are click-through rates that are below account average. So we'll change this to any campaign that's top of funnel. So I do want to make sure that that is the main KPI here, especially if you have a high-priced item or you have a lengthy window. If you're a lead gen client, the main thing to note is while your campaign objectives are set to match your rules, there's a very low chance that a first brand exposure is going to make someone purchase, right? So click-through rate tells us that someone is paying attention to our ad. They're interrupting something just to pay attention to an ad. So why that's important here is because we want to make sure that our creative is constantly stopping a scroll. And if we're stopping a scroll and producing a click, we're way more likely to capture them with, if you're doing the Adverlytx method, the only other campaign we have live, which is our top creative. So now we'll move on to basically creating an ad set, looking into what we call Convertlytx. I know this is at Advantage Insight because I recorded this a while back, but I think Convertlytx is kind of just more appropriate for what we're actually doing. Is we're trying to make things convert and we're analyzing. So we're using this proprietary logic and we're building upon it. So we want to consider campaign performance against the platform return. So as we know, the insight is, or the Convertlytx ROAS is based off of rolling averages, where in the account, it's all just based off whatever window we're looking at. So before we're actually considering pausing any ad set or any campaign indefinitely, we do want to measure this, and this is where those custom rules that we made earlier in the course come in handy. So we're able to pop into custom metrics and grab that Advantage Insight, or in this case Convertlytx, and we're looking at today. And we will not change this from today because this is a rolling average and we only care about what it says today. If you're e-commerce, this is taking in the most short-term performance, but it's not missing out on creative that may have performed well and is just in a lull. So we're looking at 30 days and we're making sure, is the Advantage Insight greater than the purchase? If that's the case, we make sure we want to keep this campaign optimized. If it's less, which we'll do in a different note, we want to make sure that we're taking the opposite approach. So this is very important to make sure, in case we're ever looking at something that's performing above the actual platform average, we just want to make sure we're giving it the proper love and care. So now we're looking at ad sets. So we're creating another rule here at the ad set level. Again, meta focus, and we're able to do this slightly different on Google Ads since it is a different behavior that doesn't have quite the same robust, rich media. But in this case, we're looking at ad set click-through rates that are above account average, especially in the last 7 days. So we may have media that we've been working with that suddenly is surging. Maybe it's not getting us the returns and obviously the KPIs that are most important to the brand, but we do want to make sure our top of funnel mediums are getting the love that and the credit they need for producing high click-through rates above the account average. So if we look at the last 7 days, not including today, since there is an attribution delay, we just want to see, is this click-through rate better than the account average? So we're going to do just click-through rate in this case. We're not going to use link clicks. We're using all click-through rate here. And we're looking at the entire account again. So we want to look at the account average against an individual piece. And in this case, I did record this video a little bit ago, but we do want to change this to 130. Did make some notes. This is not auto scale here. This is just looking at, hey, what creative is really producing. It's so important to look at creative that's producing, because when we take the rug out from underneath creative that is stopping a scroll, we're not creating that first brand touch point. We're utilizing that because if you had a billboard on the side of the road and you knew that more people looked at that and then went and searched their phone for your brand, you would be producing that billboard everywhere. It's a little bit different sometimes than the creative that's going to make the sale. Sometimes they're the same because they're scrolling and they're stopping a scroll, but we are giving love at the top of funnel to anything that's breaking the scroll. It's very important. That's where we're going to create the most creative reiterations, and we're going to use our champions over and over, reiterations of just the overall best ROAS getters in our other accounts, or excuse me, in our other campaigns. So next, we're going to focus in on cloning this, but we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to increase our window here, and we're going to look for an ad set add to cart percentage that is based off of the last 14 days against the account average. So basically here, it's the same as the other rule, but we are looking for, especially if your account is new and you don't have a lot of conversion data, we want to create conversion actions that will increase the likelihood of a purchase down the road, especially if you have a high price ticket. So some people might, be further down the funnel. They might add some stuff they want. They see the total price at the end and maybe they abandon. So basically, the more add to cart or initiate checkouts we add as conversion actions, the faster that Google Ads or Meta Ads learns. And that gives us an opportunity to add conversion data into the account. And then once we're comfortable, we'll go back and we'll take away or clone and remove any add to cart or initiate checkout actions, and we'll focus primarily on conversions. So one thing, a metric that's missing in Meta Ads is the actual add to cart rate. So we know we have add to cart number, or excuse me, the number of add to carts, but what we want to see is the number of add to carts against the amount of total clicks. So we do have those opportunities here. So what we're going to do is we're come in and we're going to select our add to carts. All of them, not just catalog or website based, and we're going to just divide that against the number of outbound link clicks. So we do want to take outbound clicks, not just clicks on an ad, because then someone doesn't have the opportunity to add to cart. So we'll call this our add to cart rate percentage, and we'll change the format to a percentage. So now that we create this, we're able to add this to the account in RevealBot and look at the last 14 days. And we want to make sure that our add to cart percentage is a good 1.5 against the custom add to cart rate in the account as an average in the last 14 days. So it's important to grab that and look at. I didn't add it there in that rule, but I did record this a little while back, but that's a place we want to look at the account average, and we did not end up doing that. So I do want to make a note of that, that in that we do want to change ad set to add to cart.